You're in trouble, little guy. Hey there, team. Cartoon Lark here with another episode of Boss Battle. This week, what I want to look at is the Fire Giant and how to make your fight with the Fire Giant the best battle you ever did in D&D. Now, I want to start off, you should always look at the lore of the creature first. So if you've got the Monster Manual, if you've got Volo's Guide, if you've got Storm King's Thunder, there's lots of little details about Fire Giants that you can use and start to bleed those into the players so they know what they're going to be up against before they actually see this thing, rather than surprising them with this monster. One big thing to know is that they are craftsmen, so they're going to have armor, they're going to have great swords, they're going to have advanced weaponry, they're going to have maybe some advanced traps, maybe like a cage on a rope or something. They're going to have some different things that they can throw at the party to keep things moving, keep things different, keep things engaged. On top of that, they hate small folk. And not just humans, they hate like all small folks. They slave people, they'll use them as cannon fodder, they'll use them as a front lineman and just have them charge forward so that these guys can get a better view of the combat. Finally, they're known warriors and fighters, which means that these guys are going to be dangerous in combat. You don't want these guys to get one or two attacks off and for the party to wipe them out. Here's the threat. You're going to have to make sure that these guys have a high AC. I'm talking 18 with their armor, 20 if you give some of them a shield. I'd even say if they have a great sword, count that as a shield too. They could block with that thing. The thing's huge. So now they've got an AC of 18 or possibly even 20. On top of that, they're going to fight smart. Now, they're not known for being tactical. That's more of a cloud or storm giant thing, so they're not going to have these advanced tactics set up. But when they're in the fight, they're great warriors. So they're going to be skilled fighting multiple people or be able to change the position of combat in combat to be able to prevent themselves from getting caught, from getting cornered, from getting trapped, or leaving themselves in a place where they can't get out to fight another day. Next thing, as a threat, you want to recognize that these guys are massive. They're huge. So for that reason, they should be able to whip players around. That's a huge threat. The fact that you can get stomped on, stepped on, kicked out of the way, picked up and launched, that's a huge threat right there. And then finally, you want to make sure that they are using minions in some way. A show of force is huge for Fire Giants, so they should always show up with a little band of minions to help them out, be it goblins or humanoids or orcs or maybe even trolls. Whatever the case, they've got somebody to back them up on the combat. They're not going to fight alone. So now, for the excitement, we want to make sure that we're doing something to make this fight exciting so it's memorable to your players. One big thing I recommend is changing the battlefield throughout. Now, I would call this a siege monster. If this guy swings a sword, he's taking out buildings, he's rending through trees, the very earth beneath him is going to get carved out. And for that reason, I would say every time the Fire Giant's turn is done, the entire battlefield should be laid out differently. And there's a ton of different ways you can do it. One, you can have him take his greatsword and cleave down, let it go and pull out two axes. And when he does that, now you've got this wall that's here. Or if it's sticking out of the ground, players can even run up it to jump onto him or whatever you want to do with that. He throws an axe, and maybe it misses your ranger who's trying to take shots from the distance, and it rends through 5 or 6 trees, and these trees come crashing down. If your player was in the trees, that they're getting crushed. Maybe this thing is landing now into the battlefield as these huge trees get taken out. This is an awesome way to do your combat. So now the giant isn't just swinging and attacking the players. Everything they do is inadvertently affecting the environment. Maybe they've used all their weapons, their shield is stuck in the ground, they've got a couple axes stuck in trees in the distance, and then they go to pick up their greatsword to use it again, and now there's this huge trench in the ground, and maybe there's a jump to be able to get over that thing. Whatever you're going to do, every round, these guys should change the battlefield in some way. Next thing is they should be a moving target. I would recommend that these guys are constantly in motion. Now, they don't have a great speed. The speed's only 30, but a proper fighter knows that if you stay still, you're going to get surrounded. So these guys should constantly be moving in combat, and they can even move and throw things similar to archers on horseback. They're constantly moving, constantly shooting. There's very little that can be done about that, and that's what makes these guys such a challenge. And it makes it for an exciting fight when they're not just standing there swinging back and forth and waiting for the party to swarm them like bees. So we got 3 stages to this combat to make it as memorable as ever. I love the Zelda bosses. They got 3 stages. I'm going to make my bosses have 3 stages. First stage, minions charge, and the giants volley. So the giants are going to start hucking boulders or big metal cages or whatever they want to throw while the little guys charge for. Maybe it's orcs, maybe it's goblins. Do it based on your party's level. Give them a hit point. Let the party start tearing through those guys. And let the party show off who their ranger is, or their ranged fighter, and who their wizard is. This is going to give the giant a chance to figure out who he does not want in this combat. The giants aren't stupid, especially fire giants. They're great fighters, and the most dangerous thing to somebody like him is being dominated or being held in place, being stopped magically. So if there's anybody using magic on the field, Giants' number one thing, he's going to sprint over them. I'm going to give him 60 feet of movement on this and one attack rather than his multi-attack. He's going to dash in and he's going to punt that wizard as far away as possible. I'll say he flies 50 feet away, takes 5d6 damage, and that's the Giant's turn. So the Giant runs straight through everyone and boom, he'll take opportunity attacks to do this, punt away that magic user, and now he's back to a regular fight the way he wants it, where he doesn't have to make dex saving throws. It's just everybody against his AC. Arrows, swords, all that business. So now, he's made the battlefield the way he's wanted. He's punted away the wizard. Wizard is sprinting back into combat, maybe blasting a few spells off in the process, maybe dodging some fallen trees that we talked about, or whatever that. Maybe he has to climb over some fallen trees. All the terrain is difficult now because of what the Giant did previously. Whatever the case, now the Giant's going to go for the ranged combatants. He's probably already passed by the warriors. He's going to take out the archers as quick as he can, and if he can't reach them, he'll deal with the fighters, that's fine. But this is where you get into the awesome moment where he's dropping swords, he's dropping shields, and he's avoiding the caster's line of sight as much as he can. So if he can drop his sword on the ground, if he can place a shield somewhere, he does not want to get hit by any sort of magic. That's going to be the biggest thing for him to avoid, and he'll change the battlefield in order to do so. Finally, what I call the flurry of weapons. I would have your Giant carry multiple weapons at all times. Your fighters do in D&D. Anybody with a full body armor has got like 6 javelins and all kinds of stuff on. Give your fighter Giant that stuff too. So now they can take all those weapons, use them all in combat. Hardest part for the DM is figure out what kind of damage each weapon is going to do for these guys. You can do it based on the rules book if you want. I'm not a fan of that. I just do one consistent damage amount. It doesn't really matter. You're rolling dice. It's going to be different damage every time anyway. So let them drop a weapon, pull out a couple new ones. Drop a shield, pull out a couple new weapons. Throw a javelin, pull out some new weapons. So they're constantly changing. And these items that are stuck all over the battlefield now, he can run over and pick one of those up and launch it again anytime he feels the need to. He's not too worried about opportunity attacks with an AC of 18 or possibly 20. They're going to be doing awesome. And this guy is in all kinds of danger. So we've got our lore, our threat, our excitement, and a 3-stage combat for these Giants. If you have any questions on that, be sure to leave them in the comment section down below. I appreciate a like, I appreciate a subscribe. I'm still a growing channel, so it means a lot to me. If you're looking for other bosses, leave those down below so I know what you want to see next, and we'll figure out how to add a few stages to your future combats. And I will A, B, C ya.